Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Element and Architecture podcast. And today we dive into an architecture that is maybe not as well known as the other ones that we've done in this series, but is definitely one that is insightful in its design, strategies, and its purpose that it serves in society. 四合院, as a core part of Beijing's urban fabric, are courtyard residential units that are unique to Beijing city. You can view it as the epitome of Beijing-style architecture in the 18th century during the Qing dynasty. This is the architectural style that is associated with Beijing. However, Beijing's rapid economic development and modernization in the late 20th century came at a cost of its eroding identity, an identity that is unique to the city. You see, the image of 四合院 are fading away from Beijing's urban memory, increasingly being damaged, demolished, or even just being left abandoned or vacant. When commissioned with the task of building a kindergarten next to an elder care site, Mad Architects, which is an architecture firm that we have previously explored in this series, recognizes the former problem and sought to revitalize an integral part of Beijing's identity through their new architecture that we are going to be discussing today. That is the Yuecheng Courtyard Kindergarten. So the Yuecheng Courtyard Kindergarten serves as an intervention that seamlessly blends modernity with tradition. Erected within the traditional Beijing 四合院, this renovation, designed by the visionary Mad Architects, offers a futuristic counterpoint to its surroundings. Mad Architects, as we have talked about before, is a firm that is renowned for their visionary and innovative approach to architecture. Led by the very much acclaimed architect Ma Yansong, this architecture firm has always been committed to developing sort of futuristic, organic, and technologically advanced designs in their architecture as stated by them. And these qualities, or these features, is also seen in the kindergarten that I'm going to be talking about in this podcast. However, the Yuecheng Courtyard Kindergarten is a little bit different from some of their other architectural designs, because it's not meant to show how big the buildings can be in terms of their scale, but instead this project is meant to demonstrate how much architecture can do even at such small scales. This episode of the Element in Architecture podcast will revolve around a discussion of Mad's innovative design strategies that they took on in designing this community architecture. So the Yuecheng Courtyard Kindergarten project revolves around Mad's 4 design visions: historic preservation, re-energization of the community spirit, and small-scale intervention. That is their 3 design visions that they have made for themselves in proposing this project. Now, the subject of intervention is a traditional 四合院, or traditional Beijing courtyard residential area that is built in 1725, and also a 20th century replica of the courtyard that is built, that is enveloped around the old courtyard. And this also includes a modern building that is 4 stories tall. As part of MAD's design strategy to preserve history, they have removed the surrounding 20th century 四合院 and retained the original architecture of the 18th century courtyard at the center of the site. And so as part of the kindergarten, as part of MAD's kindergarten architecture design, a single undulating roof is built enveloping the preserved courtyards, which emulates a natural landform or terrain that creates a dynamic visual profile. And whilst fluid, this is opposed to being very much geometric and defined, the curvilinear roofscape, very much the topological roofscape, you can call it, integrates seamlessly with the courtyard architecture. And by forming a contrast between the geometric quality of the courtyard and the dynamic nature of the roof, the architecture forms almost like a dialogue between tradition and modernity. The dynamic topography of the roofscape aligns with MAD's goal of making their architecture organic, and also evokes a sense of futurism that is seen in many of the architecture that they design. And so we can see this architecture as an embodiment, or is even an extension of MAD's design principles. At the same time, the topography of this floating roof is created to entice kindergarten kids to run and play, and overall stimulating an interactive environment for children. The floating roof, the so-called floating roof, for this topological roof design employs a bright yellow, red, and white color palette. Although MAD did not specify the intentions of using the warm color palette, the colors do blend in successfully with the neighboring environment, since red and gold are commonly used not just in imperial architecture in Beijing, such as Forbidden City, but also in like the residential architecture, such as the courtyards and the hutongs. And this makes the fluid mass of the rooftop not overly conspicuous, but instead fit into the color palette the Beijing city encompass. In this way, also preserving the historical authenticity, not the historical authenticity, more like the fitting the architecture with the historical context of the urban landscape. The roof also serves as a link between many independent spaces beneath it in a unified form, and sort of creates a clear distinction or contrast between the neighboring alleyways and the kindergarten architecture itself. The kindergarten architecture at ground level consists of 3 central courtyards that are built around green areas, which are meant to replicate the traditional 四合院 type courtyards. And slides and stairs in the courtyard connect to the rooftop. And so the new courtyard serves as open communal areas, which fosters a sense of community and connection to the outdoors. We can see that this feature is sort of a renovation meant to preserve and also promote the traditional spatial organizations in these 四合院 traditional to Beijing architecture culture. The teaching spaces within the kindergarten are also surrounded by ceiling to floor glass panels, which allows natural light to flood into the interior of the kindergarten, and creating a bright and warm learning environment, and that also visually connects with the nearby traditional 四合院 architecture. This provides not only an inviting learning space, but also provides the individuals with sort of a bridge between modern and traditional preserving historical authenticity. Aesthetically speaking, the use of light materials such as wood and glass for the light wood and glass for the Yuecheng Kindergarten architecture not only provides a stark yet harmonious contrast with the traditional gray brick elements of the courtyard, but also enhances the sense of openness and fluidity within the space. This is exactly the effect MAD wanted to create. That is, a modern and open or community-oriented space that juxtaposes the neighboring traditional elements. Now, according to the lead architect of MAD, one unique feature of Beijing architecture is that it has so many so-called cracks, like tunnels and courtyards, that revolves around some sort of greenery or nature. Now, the courtyards in the kindergarten reflects this traditional design principle, where greenery and nature becomes the main subject that the volume of the kindergarten architecture revolves around. The learning areas in the kindergarten architecture is particularly well planned, where a flowing organization defined by curvilinear sitting spaces and floor space creates a free and borderless layout in the architecture. In this way, again, stimulating the interactive and highly communal environment that is also promoted by the Beijing Siheyuan and in the rest of the kindergarten architecture. Now, MAD's Yuecheng Courtyard Kindergarten is a masterful fusion of traditional and modern architectural elements. It's an intervention that not only fosters community engagement, but also revitalizes the urban fabric of Beijing that is slowly dying away in today's world due to the rapid modernization that Beijing is still undertaking to this day. By seamlessly integrating a historic 18th century Siheyuan with an organic, undulating roofscape design that aligns with MAD's core design principles, the architecture establishes a connection between the past and the present. Meanwhile, the kindergarten's open and fluid spatial organization with the abundant natural light, strategic natural integration that fosters the learning environment and actively promotes a truly communal atmosphere that MAD also intends on creating or evoking. This project stands as an example of how contemporary architecture can honor historicity while also providing contemporary and highly functional spaces for future generations. And that is it for this episode. I find this architecture to be immensely interesting. It's mainly because of the contrast that this architecture has that really makes this architecture interesting to talk about under the context of our modern world. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.